From Sunset Beach, Hawaii, weighing 267 pounds, the magnificent Muraco.
Why is it they call him magnificent? The man who lifts condominiums off his chest. Anything that's explosive, anything that's exciting, Prince of Darkness, Master of Destruction, perpetrator of violence. Get ready! I'm gonna burn this place down!
Hello everybody, James here, and this is Don Muraco's Magnificent Podcast, returning once again for a happy new year in 2022, and let's do the plugs first. It's dontherockmorocco.com for all your signed merchandise, and it is amazon.com or amazon.com for your country for books of mine that I've written about the Rock and Owen Hart. So this year, or this new year, we're going to kick off with an Ask Muraco Anything, because I didn't feel like doing the research for a proper episode, so I got you guys to do the research for me and send in questions, and we're going to do this for the next two episodes. But for now, we're going to greet the magnificent one, the beach bum, the one and only, The Rock. Don, hello.
Hello. Season's greetings.
Season's greetings. Oh dear, right. This is go-to because of slightly dodgy internet, but we're going to try and press on, and we've got an hour's worth of questions, and we're going to cut it off at an hour. And the first one I'm going to ask you is: there's been a death in wrestling. I'm sure you're very surprised to hear, but this time it's Michael Penzel, aka Corporal Kirchner. He died maybe about a week ago. He was age 64. And he was originally thought to have died in 2006, and it ended up making news all across the globe. And then it turns out he hadn't. But what do you know about Corporal Kirchner? He was around in the WWF for a few years while you were there.
Yeah, he was in with us for a while. Never got a real big push. He was around. I worked with him several times. He was a pretty good guy. I never. He got along pretty much with everybody, as far as I know. We weren't involved in any angles. I didn't think he didn't get into any angles. I don't know. We didn't stay a real long time. He's kind of there, and before he could get rolling, he moved out.
He was actually there for a little under 3 years. He was there from November 1984 to July 1987. But he started out as R.T. Reynolds, and then he was the Axe briefly. And then he became Corporal Kirchner probably late 84, early 85 as a follow-up, to call it politely, to Sergeant Slaughter, who had left a few months earlier.
I don't remember his first two... the first two characters he was. I just remember him as Corporal Kirchner. He was pretty good. He was solid, hard-working kid. He was a young guy at the time, He was a hard-working guy. Not real polished at the time, and was kind of breaking in. He was all, I don't know. I heard dissension about him after the fact, after some couple guys didn't like him, or I don't know, he went to wrestling, he did the shoot fighting in Japan or something like that,
Yeah, he did deathmatch wrestling as Leatherface, which he probably had his best success with.
Oh, okay.
But somebody who really didn't make very much of a mark on you then, I suppose.
Not me. I mean, he's fine with me. I had no problem with him. It was the Office. He didn't. The Office. He didn't get excited, obviously, because he's not. Didn't hold any belts or wasn't in any big matches or anything. Big angles or. A couple of them, but I don't think they were really developed into blossomed them much.
No, I think he was just on a certain level, and I don't think his work was sort of up to snuff at that point either.
Yeah, he was learning, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, when I looked at his match listing, it didn't list anything before the WWF. He just seemed to be in the WWF straight from training. So he really had practically no experience, as far as I can tell, when he went in. Yeah,
but he was good enough to, get by. He was working with the guys, a lot of guys that would carry him too, and he would listen. He would listen, and he wouldn't go off on tangents or go crazy. At least when he was working with us, he was easy to. Sorry, was he had a family? A big family, or leave a wife and kids and stuff behind?
Well,
you?
probably. I don't know.
Oh, you
I don't even know
know.
that. What I do know is that no one seemed to quite know what his real name was, and
It's
that's
kind
where.
of mysterious. He died 10 years ago, 12, 15 years ago, reportedly. Then it was
Yeah,
a hoax. And then, yeah.
it wasn't even
Yeah, I don't know
hoax.
anything about it. I don't know anything about. I remember reading an article, just in passing about him and different things. Uh, Nothing derogatory and nothing complimentary. Just pretty much his following in the death matches in Japan and such and such. But I didn't. No detail on family life or any other life
No.
that he had connected.
The reason why he was reported as dead as 2006 is that apparently WWE had his real name wrong, and then somebody by that name died, and then they report it, and then everybody else reported it. So,
oh my God!
Yeah, so apparently his name at the time was Michael Penzel, but he may have changed his name at some point in the past. But I'll tell you what, I'll move on then. Another bit of news over the past week or so was Jim Ross is cancer-free. He's announced he's cancer-free after going through about 3 weeks of chemo or like targeted radiation for skin cancer. And I was thinking, have you and Jim ever crossed paths other than maybe like Hall of Fames in the mid-90s or 2000s?
Yeah. Just at WWE events, and I think they were going to Australia or something, and he and Jerry Briscoe were two Oklahomans. They're close friends, and I went down to see Briscoe at the hotel where they were staying at, and he was with him and Jerry were in a room or something. We're traveling together. Japan, I think we were going to Japan. I'm not sure, but I didn't know. I spoke with him several times. He seemed, real cordial, nice man.
Yeah, because I was thinking because you wouldn't have been in Mid-Atlantic or not Mid-Atlantic, you would have been WCW pretty much at that point when Jim Ross was working there. You wouldn't have been in WCW for that one match you did with the Legends reunion. You never went to Mid-South. You may have possibly met him in Houston at some point if he was doing something there with Bill, but no, nothing.
No. He came from Oklahoma, from Watts. He was done. He was a good. He was big there. He's a good commentator. He was good. Good guy in the mic. Always, I thought entertaining, insightful.
So I've picked.
But no, I never had I was never close friends with him.
So I've picked two pieces of news
from
guys.
His wife passed a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
he was distraught about that, and that was a hard thing he had to go through. But aside from that, no.
No, he's
around Florida.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I've picked two pieces of news about guys that you have absolutely no idea what they were like personally. Never mind.
Oh, we're starting the new year off with a bang.
Yeah. I'll move on then. So somebody you do know that you work with. So we always do these questions. If you don't know, I put something out on YouTube and Twitter and ask for questions before we do one of these Ask Muraco anythings. And the first question is going to be from me. Because why not? And there was a match between you and between you and John Studd versus Rocky Johnson and Andre the Giant, April 30th, 1983, and the special guest referee is Swede Hansen. And after the match, you attack him because you get pinned and a big brouhaha at the end, and then the good guys clear the ring. And the question is, anything about Swede Hansen that you know?
He was a good card up around Charlotte and down south for a long time. So I never met him till he and Rip Hawk were a tag. You mentioned Rip Hawk last time. I worked with Rip a couple times. He went in Tampa. And when his career was winding down, and when he was in New York or WWF, when I was there, his career was so he was an enormous man, big guy, nice guy. Good guy, card player, cribbage player. Kept to himself, He was, just like I say, he was winding down his career. He was happy to be in the WWF and making I worked with him. I worked with him in Dubai, not the Abu Dhabi one time. There's no house. And the TV was doing anything. I picked him up for a slam and I fell down and I told the referee to count. And he counted me out. And they raised Sweet's hand. He said, "Oh no, the office." I said, the Jim Troy and Fuji running the show. I said, nothing's gonna happen. I said, I won't let him know you double crossed me. He said,
Was that pretty common for you to, like, on a house show, just go, just take the pin if you couldn't be bothered carrying on wrestling or whatever?
Occasionally, I did it just to fool around with somebody. Usually carry, the house. The spot show. You can get away with the different spot shows and nobody would know. You're on late or something and, you're with the guy, somebody, that's up and coming or been around or, good, like a Johnny Rods or somebody like that. A lot of, it's hard. It was hard to get away with in New York, but there were shows where you could pull that off every once in a while. And put the guy over. You double crossed me. No.
Give me where Swede Hansen was most popular and when, like, his heyday was year-wise.
I think down in Charlotte, out of Jim Crockett's territory, when he and Rip Hawk were tag team down there. They traveled those. That was a rough territory too. Those guys, that was 2-3 towns a night too, driving and going all the time till they got their planes. But there, those.
When you say rough town, is that a traveling rough town, or is it rough towns as far as the crowds?
Yeah. Well, you got North South Carolina, Virginia, a couple parts of other states in there that you're going up and down all the time. Nice, good pay, good money.
I'll move on then. And the next question is from Ibzan Oreo. I can never pronounce his name. Thoughts on Black Jack Lanza as an agent and a wrestler? And he died a couple of weeks ago as well, didn't he, old Black Jack?
Yeah, he passed too. He was a hell of a heel. He was, I'm not sure. I think he was like contracted with Gagne. Because Vern would book him out. I don't know, but it would seem like he threw his name into the hat with Vern's guys. And Vern booked him out to Indianapolis or had him down into Dallas. He went to Dallas as a top heel, and everywhere he went, he had a top run and got pushed well. And he did good business too. He was good looking, tall, lean guy, 6'4", 6'5", and not really bulky, but he looked big enough to carry the part. He could pass for 250, 260. Because that black, and he's a good worker. He had his thing, his gimmick, and his claw and the black glove and the stuff he did. So what he did, to his own particular style, it got over. And after like when I was in Texas, he was going with Fritz. He had a feud going with Fritz. So wherever he went, I think he, like I said, I think he was connected with Vern, and Vern was booking him out. If he was paying Vern back, I don't know. A lot of those guys were though.
In my mind, that they were most synonymous with Indianapolis. I think that's right, but they did show up in AWA.
Yeah, him and Jack Mulligan. Yeah, him and Blackjack. Him, the two Blackjacks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they're a hell of a team. They had Bobby Heenan as a manager, and Bobby Heenan was doing a lot of sneaking around, taking a lot of bumps and stuff back then too. So they were. Mulligan was a great card. Wherever he went, he was a big, enormous, big badass heel. And then he switched babyface, and he was smart enough to work, to lay back like Don Leo Jonathan or one of those giants there. You just get there and start selling and selling and selling, and could sell, where you get, it's a huge guy doing on the mat, and then he'd come back. I remember Ole used to have a big picture of him on his face, and and it was taped. The big, the poster you sell to the fans and stuff, and he taped it to his television. He had a big, in the old time big TVs before all the things, and it was a big thing. I don't know what is it, 48 inches or 36 inches back in those days was a big screen. He had that big face and sitting in his eye. I guess he used to knock Ole out, weekly. For one reason or another.
I've heard enough stories where it always seems to be him knocking out Ole for some reason, and it's like,
Ole wasn't knocking him out.
I was gonna say, there's never any sympathy for Ole in these stories.
No.
Did you ever wrestle the Blackjacks?
No, I wrestled Jack Lanza several times, many in Minneapolis and then in Dallas and probably other territories. But I wrestled Jack Lanza, but never Jack Wyndham, Jack Mulligan. No.
No. Was this with Lanza? Was this in the white hat days for him in the?
No, he was a heel. I was babyface. He was a heel. He was easy to work with. His heel and did that thing and that choking and stuff, and he'd sneak around like a great giant spider. And, he was easy.
Yeah,
good promo guy, good interview man, good all the way around. Talented guy.
With Jack Lanza as an agent, excuse me. When did he come into the WWF? Do you remember roughly? And how was he as an agent? Because he's generally regarded as one of the premier guys you want to ask advice from.
Oh, later on in my run there, probably towards the 83, 84, 85 period there. He came in and later towards the end, and then he stayed after I was gone. He was good. He was a good agent, never, didn't overstep, was, didn't try, if you have a problem, call there's a phone, go call Vince, I just, they were just, they're just there to, they're just there to carry the finishes, they were just telling you what they've been told, and lending, maybe some criticism or some input, and they thought might work better because you're there now. He was good.
Well, I say, I don't know about back in the day, but these days agents really seem to be really integral in putting together matches. Back in the 80s, was it just expected that you knew what to do and they just told you who was winning?
Yeah, we want this guy over. We want you over. You're coming back. Mine were usually returns or countouts or you guys are coming back in a cage or you're coming back in a lumberjack or something. So if that's the case, then you keep running out of the ring. To plant the seed that with the cage in or the lumberjacks there, you can't run away. They're going to keep grabbing you and throwing you back in the ring. So that was then your favorite lights out matches and Texas death matches. They're all pretty much the same thing. It depends how you kind of blow it off in a cage. But I don't know what they do.
I think they tell you everything they're doing, or at least work with you from beginning to end. With Lanza as well, before I forget, does anyone smoke, or did anyone chain smoke more than Jack?
Yeah, I don't know. Is he a cigarette smoker? He was?
Very much so. I'm led to believe, yeah.
Well, George Steele was a big smoker. Mosca. Back in those days, a lot of guys smoked, cigarettes. I guess still now. But the guys, I don't remember him smoking, but I'm sure he probably did.
Yeah. Okay, I'll move on then. And Trev Hammond asks, "Hi guys, the Missing Link had a brief stint in New York around 1985. Bobby Heenan expressed he was not thrilled to work with him. Did Don have any interaction or any Missing Link stories? Thanks."
Yeah. At first, I thought it was Furpo. You're talking about the missing link, but this is Dewey Robinson, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. He was kind of. He was a good guy.
You say that about everyone, though, but you are laughing when you
Yeah,
say
well,
it.
I didn't have a lot of problems with a lot of guys. And I just trip out watching these guys. He well, he had that thing with the head. He got over real good. It's and he it would his gimmick and everything was real. I don't know what happened. He had his wife on the road, and they were quite a pair. That they were. Bobby Heenan used to talk about her, not ad nauseum just to your side skirt, because they were evidently he lived in a motorhome. He stayed in a motorhome somewhere in the Carolinas or something that on the East Coast there, and I think it was a nudist colony. No, motorhome, a trailer park area, and Bobby Bobby used to tell a story. Yeah, and he tells them the wife, and everybody's got their nicknames and everything, to walk around, and his is this and that, and he said, "Well, what's his wife? What's yours?" She says, "Oh, the Grand Canyon." It's kind of, and he was an interesting fellow, and they admitted they're interesting, they're a pair. I don't know why he left. I don't know what happened. He didn't get along or something. I don't know. He didn't get over. I don't know what it was.
You think that character was tailor-made for the WWF in 1985 as well, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Figure he'd found a home there, unless it was, just seeing his wife pulling shenanigans with people and got back to the office. I don't, that part I don't know.
Shenanigans with the boys. Is there something there?
Well, not so much with the boys, but people around, or I don't know what kind of, if they were in any scams or what kind of stuff they were into.
Right.
But so, they're interesting to watch. It's like like one of those hangover movies.
Oh, really?
The good old Grand Canyon, and they're good. And the way Bobby would tell, and he go off and off on story, and he could put a hell of a story together.
Well, the question says that Bobby Heenan expressed he was not thrilled to work with him. I don't know the story behind that. Was it more just because the wife was?
I don't know why. I have no idea what Bobby's.
Well, there's got to be something.
He had a lot to say, So it could be, their lifestyle was a little erratic for him, maybe, And I have no clue.
Their transient nudist lifestyle.
Yeah. Sun worshippers.
Oh dear me! Right, I'll ask you this, right? But there used to be like a giant wrestling rumor list. A lot of them were made up, but occasionally one would be true. And it was always said that Kevin Sullivan was banging to nudism. Is that true?
Banging who?
No, sorry, it was a local expression. He was really into nudism, Kevin Sullivan.
Oh, Sullivan?
Yeah.
God, I don't know. He was a hell of a body. He was a hell of a bodybuilder. He worked out, and he was real strong in the legs. He was a hell of a squatter. But as far as I know, I don't think he didn't live in Daytona, or he's up in Washington. I think Washington State now, on an island off the coast there. I don't think it's a little cold if you're running around without clothes there. It's like a freezing day in Hawaii. It's freezing here. It's why I have my long shirt on.
Yeah, your long t-shirt out.
It's under 70. It's in the 60s.
Right, I'm going to move on. Ryan from Boston asks, does Don remember the Boston-based talent enhancement wrestler, the Duke of Dorchester, Pete Doherty? Don was in a bunkhouse battle royal with Doherty in the old Boston Garden.
Oh yeah, everybody knows. Everybody remembers Pete Doherty. He was. Yeah. He loved to. He loved. I don't know what he did. I don't know what his job was. He was a full-time worker. I think he was with the newspaper. I think he was hooked up with Davey O'Hannon. Davey O'Hannon got him some work with the union newspaper guys and stuff. He was a rugged guy. He just looked, but he loved to. He would drink anything, cheap wine or cheap, and pass out. He was the Duke of Dorchester. He was, he was just. There was an old guy from Boston. He was around the locker rooms. He used to take care of it. He was seemed like he was a promoter, but I don't know, he had something to do with the buildings or something. Taffy or something like that. And they'd yell and swear at each other, just joking, but hey there, you old son of a, and he'd go back and, just shut up, you drunken fool. And, but yeah, he was, but everybody loved the guy. He was entertaining. He'd get there and he just, start spouting off about, just crazy stuff.
How come he was never full-time into the wrestling then? Because he seemed to just stay in the Northeast and turn up to lose and then leave again.
Well, then you see, he was in Boston. He was a local guy, so right there, he started in the Vince McMahon senior days, so he wasn't getting any push. And then they were, those days they were working for Kowalski at spot shows, and Bruno had Pittsburgh towns, and Savoldi had Jersey towns. They had a good gig going because they were home every night, or out stayed on the road when they wanted to stay. They could be home every night. They had a job. They had a home. They weren't keeping a separate family or separate living going. They're home, and they're making good money from Vince and the agents. All those small towns, they'd walk away with $500,000 a week when you got when you have a normal regular job, an everyday job. They were killing it.
With the Duke, I always love, let's say Brooklyn Brawler, for example, the quintessential job man, the enhancement talent. But the thing is that Pete Doherty really was an enhancement talent because he never won. All these other guys pretty much did get some wins here and there, maybe early in the career in the WWF. Pete Doherty probably won 2 matches in 1,000 matches he had with the WWF. He was a dyed in the wool, solid, happy to lose in every single match, and even the commentators would make mention that he never ever won a match. So it's nice to know that he had no ego about it.
Oh, he was, yeah. He came there to get drunk. That was his goal. He was making enough money to buy gas and get a proper snootful on the way home, or by the time he got home. I guess they had the Dr. Davey O'Hannon. I guess they had a couple bars around Boston that they kept open for years, supported, and the neighborhood in the neighborhood pubs and your local bars, the guys hang out and stuff because it's cold and they bring you together. So he was an endearing guy, funny, always making you laugh.
Did he ever face you? Did you ever beat him?
Probably.
Yeah. I mean, everyone did.
Yeah. I'm sure probably, But he was a heel, so he was a heel. So I probably not too. Maybe in a house show or something. I worked with him a few times. But they wouldn't put me on TV or something with him, and probably afraid any heel would lose their heat with somebody like him. They go in and they start cheering for you. Pete was so crazy, or they knew he was going to do a job, or how fans get. They get kind of obstinate, and they're going to take the opposite road. So probably if they saw me booked with them, it would take something, they'd decide to, cheer, be a crew of guys, college guys or high school kids or something like that would end up, cheering for me or something like that. And screw the office's mind all up, one night of spot show.
Right, I'll move on then. And it's next one. This is Raven Arthur. He asks, what was your very last match with the WWF, and did you ever try to get hired back?
Probably Barry Horowitz in France, somewhere. France or Italy? Italy, maybe. Italy. So Sardinia. After that, I came and that was it. No, I never tried to get back. I never tried to get employed anywhere after that. In wrestling. People would call me, I'd get calls and people would want to use me, and I would hire out for different things. Like when I went to Calgary and took the belt and gave it to Davey Boy, switched the belt to Davey, and in a couple territories like that, they'd use me. I'd come in. They wanted, because I was over from TV and all those years with Vince and stuff, so they used me to take a belt off, to switch a belt, put it on a baby face that they wanted to give a big push to, and it was no problem. I'd do it right in the middle. Davey Boy was his power star. Whatever their finish was, we wouldn't have to get real technical and real involved unless we were coming back. We were coming back in a return or a cage, something like that. Then we might draw a different picture. But other than that, I just do the honors right in the middle. I wasn't working to come back, and I wasn't interested in prolonging my career at the time.
With Barry Horowitz, that's the last match that I can find for you anyway, is you were facing Greg Valentine all the way across that tour. So how come you switched to Barry Horowitz? Was it just a sub for the evening or something different, or any idea?
I've worked with him several times on that tour. I don't know. They were trying to make me a baby face, which I, didn't, my baby face days had gone. And I had a hard time getting in that, that mode again. But they were, so they got me bare, and I could, I had a vague memory of, old arm drag routines and different, a lot of different Billy Robinson moves and stuff that I came up with years and years previous to, to my switching to heel and staying heel for all those years. So, I thought I was with Horowitz. Valentine and I worked in Angle because Superstar became my manager. And we talked about losing Fuji. I don't remember how I lost him, and that
or who found him.
Flower, or why. Or then that flower shop thing, and how I ended up with Bob, and then I ended up with Billy, Superstar, and we were supposed to be working around with Greg in one of those lower card match, middle card matches. And then small town main events, spot show main event kind of matches. But, I got back in that European National Lampoon European tour or something.
European vacation. This next question sort of ties into the last one. So RCS88 asks, had you stayed with the WWF in 1988, what would have been your plans? Do you know what would have happened at the end of the Valentine feud? Do you know who would have been next after that?
Oh, no, I have no idea what they tried me out for announce, do color and stuff.
Did they really?
They move guys around to color and stuff, and different places, trying to find spots for guys that had been there for a long time. Like Pedro went to the Spanish color, and Tito went there for a while, and other guys were doing, doing color with my Honky Tonk and Macho Man. Those guys ran the mic. So I imagine, that would have been a direction probably I might have been pushed towards.
Yeah. Did you actually do guest commentary, maybe for one match at a show, or did you actually do an audition?
Yeah, several times on TV. The TV matches, maybe the dark matches. They'd throw matches at the end, those 3-hour. As we progressed, we got out of Allentown, Hamburg, Poughkeepsie, and into these other towns where we're doing, they're filming TV hours. They would throw what they call them dark matches on the in between the matches, like JYD and One Man Gang, good regular top matches. And I would sit in with somebody and do the color, do the play-by-play or whatever it was, several times. But
did you ever go to the headquarters, WWF headquarters, to do any voiceover work, or was this just a single match at a TV?
Well, they didn't have any headquarters then. They had the bare beginnings of the headquarters, then in Stamford, and not a lot of guys were there. They were just mixing tapes and putting tapes together. I don't know what. I guess it's a big, it's like a Hollywood movie lot now, or in the lot they have in Fort Ruger in Hawaii, where all the Hawaii 5-0, the rooms and all the sets and stuff are set up. But it wasn't the case when I was there. Our voiceovers, our work came, pretty much generically from town to town or somewhere wherever there was a master truck.
Yeah.
To record on all your audio and video.
Okay. Next question. We'll go with Jamie Dyke. Any stories about Tony Garea?
Oh yeah, dirty, rotten guy. No, he was. Where did I meet Tony first? From San Francisco. He came out to Frisco, I think. I don't remember if I was a heel or babyface. But Tony was. We had a run in Florida. And I don't think I was there with him, but from Florida, he got hooked up into the WWF and he was a fine worker, good-looking guy, good worker. So he moved, he fit right into that. No trouble, never caused the office any trouble. I was on time to the shows, was at all the shows. So he jumped right into one of those tag team title shots, with the either had the title or they just dropped the title to the Moondogs or the Samoans or whoever happened to be the Grand Crazy Land, whoever Valiants. That was some of his. Was he with Dean Ho?
Yeah, he was with Dean Ho. Yeah.
Oh, he was with Dean. Yeah, so Dean was Dean. Yeah, Dean Iguchi, Dean Ho, that's my old, one of my old mentors from Hawaii. So he was with Dean, and
he was with Rick Martel, I believe, at one point.
And he was with Rick too. And after with Rick, he kind of did singles for a while, and then he moved to the agent, become an agent. He went to the agent spot. And I guess a few guys didn't like him as, he was. I don't know. Agents are like a kind of hard job. You were making, I don't know what kind of money they made, but it wasn't in relationship to the bill. Like the Madison Square Garden, big house, small house kind of thing. I think they're just on a. I don't know. They weren't. They weren't tearing the world apart, but they had a good steady job, and they had like a per diem for the office. The office probably, I think, helped them with their rooms. Naturally, the transportation and everything else. So it was a good, steady job. Tony was a hard worker, and he went to moved to New Haven, Connecticut when I first met him, and I know he had 2 sons. Whether he had a daughter or not, I can't remember. but I know he had 2 sons that were football players for Rutgers University, and they're pretty decent, and he followed them a lot. So he made his home in Connecticut there, and flipped houses and moved houses. His sons went through college, put his kids through college and stuff. Then they got out, they went into construction and started flipping houses and stuff up. And he was always working, always he was an industrious guy. And now he's 75, 76. He's just taking it easy. He probably, he saved his money. He wasn't, not a wild man, not a partier. He would have a drink, Excuse me. I hear the guys talking about different agents now, him and George Steele, stuff, how they turned into dicks and stuff. Well, I wasn't there, my relationship with them is that we were, we'd always been, good friends and always been working together. And I never infringed on that while they were agents, and never had the opportunity. Even Strongbow, I didn't, he was around, but he never, he had his say. There weren't many agents that I see some of Brett's interviews and stuff sometimes, how, George Steele, and I can see, it can wear on you, I see these guys, they talk about, they write about McMahon and the WWE and how he ruined wrestling and how he killed wrestling. And they want to go back to my day, basically. You're the Jack Briscoe, Dory Funk Jr., Ric Flair kind of wrestling style and stuff. And they say, well, there's no more jobs. Well, there's hundreds of schools all over the country, all over Europe and the United States teaching guys how to wrestle. There's dozens of independent wrestling companies that from California to from Hawaii to East Coast, probably to as far as Europe too, that employ and that start up wrestlers and make guys a living too. And it's that it's when you go try and make that point where Vince has killed everything and killed everybody off. He's really, for a while he did, but as it went along, it kind of seeded everything for the wrestling schools and the talking, the bump schools and the whatever, all the independent promotions and all the guys that are sending talent to to get a chance to go out. And now becoming wrestling is a whole different mindset than when I was guys my age were breaking into business.
Tony Garea is one of the most polarizing, apparently, agents. I've heard everything from he was awful, he was really not very kind to me, to he was one of the best. So, it just depends on people's individual experience with him, it seems.
Well, I don't know if he was one of the best. I just don't know that he would be really, in my time there, he didn't interfere with because he was basically a peer of most of us that were, especially the top guys, that he'd been around working with all of us, and I'm sure there are a lot of the young guys that came in the territory, he had seniority on, but a lot of the other guys, he was just one of our friends. And then later on, younger guys, just didn't dig him.
With I've just realised that I've written 2 separate questions of people asking about the Duke of Dorchester, Pete Doherty, so I'll skip that. I'll move on to the next one. And Christopher McCullum asks, as someone who grew up in the Central States Territory, I was curious if Don worked with or had any stories about Rufus R. Jones, Porkchop Cash, or Bulldog Bob Brown. Thanks.
I started with Bulldog Bob Brown, and I thought he was a tremendous worker. He went to Vancouver, British Columbia. He was a hell of a heel. He looked like a bulldog. Had a bulldog. He looked like a bulldog. Timing bumps, work. He was a good. Not much of a body. Maybe he was like 6'1". 250, 60 pounds, not, 240, 50 pounds. Not but, thick looking guy, but, he was a great worker. I thought, I was, when I was breaking in, I thought he was great, I wanted the style, the way he'd take tackles and the way he'd bump and the way he'd move around. He was just, it was effortless, the way he would move in the ring. He was working in those days in Vancouver to go and they'd have tag matches and come back or something, in the semi-main event would be a 45-minute Broadway with Steve Bolus and Sardine or somebody like that, one of those guys. So, you watch those guys work and, the routines and the series and stuff that they were doing in the time. And for me, it was impressive because I was just breaking into the business. And I thought that he was, Pork Chop Cash, I was with him for a little while in Charlotte area. And nice man. Had some peculiar hobbies, but aside from that, yeah.
Peculiar hobbies, you say?
Yeah. I can't discuss. I don't know. This is what people told me, and but he was he was a good guy. Never bothered anybody. Showed up. He was another guy. Town to town, was there on time. Told them what to do. Different territories, different areas. He got a good push. When they're pushing. He was the black guy. As a black man in the business back in the 70s and 80s. Probably 70s, early 80s before it started. Rolling around. Because they had a different position. Than obviously in society in general, than they have now. But and Rufus Jones, no, I didn't know Rufus Jones.
No, that was Slick's dad, wasn't it, I think?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I'll move on then. JBone520 says, love the podcast. My question is pertaining to the televised IC match versus Rocky Johnson. Was the DQ always the finish, or did Vince McMahon get cold feet giving the title to Rocky? No disrespect to you, Mr. Muraco, but I thought at the time Rocky Johnson would have been a good representative for the title. It was also the first time in my young wrestling fanhood that a title match was put on WWF television and the title did not change hands.
Make that man a booker. What was really, Rocky was hot. Rocky was, and Rocky was over. And like I told you before, I never beat Rocky. I never, I never pinned Rocky or submitted Rocky or, and I don't think I ever beat Rocky. But it was Snuka had switched with Lou and Ray Stevens before that. And I had a pretty good amount of heat as a beach bomb and the Intercontinental thing. And so it was like a curveball throwing me and Rocky in for 3 or 4 months before the Snuka thing. So it gave him more chance, Snuka longer opportunity to get over, to solidify his position as a top babyface, to see what, Vince was going to do, what kind of business he was going to do, and how he's going to be. When he was put in that position. And then, so how were we going with Snuka?
With Rocky Johnson, why did he not win the
belt?
belt?
Oh, yeah. So with Rocky, so it was like a curveball that they just threw that in for like a 4-month program with me and Rocky. It worked all over, guard all the big towns, all the small, all the major cities. We worked, we had returned 2 or 3 matches, never hurt him. He came out of that whole series as, as strong as he went into, just without a belt, was about it.
Yeah.
Whether what they wanted to do with the belt, that was their thing. And they're probably, waiting on Jimmy for, but then they realized, they weren't going to give it to Jim.
Yeah. Would you have, if you were booking this, would you have lost the belt to Rocky and then won it back a couple of months later before going back to Jimmy again, or do you think they did the right thing by you holding it for so long?
Yeah. Yeah, they were trying to build me up too, right? They were trying to get me stronger too, even though I wasn't, I wasn't tearing anybody apart or, marching through the north there, leaving the trail of bodies behind me or anything. There was, I was getting my heat, and I was getting over as well too, and just, and basically keeping the belt against somebody like, wrestling Rocky, having a title match, and coming out with the belt on my back, bloody, dragging my ass back to the locker room. That got more heat than, that got me more heat than actually beating anybody. Which was my style. I was a coward, a wise guy, arrogant,
And
could wrestle but didn't wrestle. I always took a shortcut, yada yada yada.
there's a couple of things actually from this question I want to touch on. Is one, was it really true that if there was a title match on television, the belt always changed hands back in those days?
God, I don't know. That's his perception. Bob, the tag team, they used to do the tag teams like that. For Bruno or Pedro or something, they'd always save those for the, a garden or a big, big venue. I don't think they would, I don't think they wouldn't raise that in Allentown or anything, Allentown or Hamburg. They would save that for a big house show. And they were really set up. It was, when I came, and me and Piper and it was really a transitional period, because up until I got there, it was 6 to 10 weeks as a heel, soup on TV, beat some, murder, kill somebody, week after week after week, till you became so strong that then you went right into the big cities with the champion, and you'd go however many matches they had you set up for that. You'd go 2 or 3 shows with the champion or one in some cases with the champion for that, and then on that. And when I came in, and when Valentine when Valentine came, me and Valentine, it kind of moved on to that. It changed from that, where we were wrestling heels. We weren't the 6'6", 350-pound guys that they were normally using as heels, because they were kind of running out of those anyway. And we had gone to the workers, the Slaughters, the Ortons, the mass superstars. They'd gone to the 240, 260-pound heel that could move and get heat and talk, and didn't really necessarily need a manager. And so it was a transition period. Like I said, my first match in the Garden was with Rick Martel, and I didn't even beat him. I dropped him on the top rope, and he hit the floor, and he got counted out. So it wasn't, and I came out of that with just as much heat as if I cut his throat in the middle of the ring. It was just it was just the momentum of the TV, the way the TV was working, and the way I was getting over on TV, that they wanted to keep it that way. And it was working that way, and it transitioned into. That's why I was able to come back after 6 months, only leaving for the territory for 6 months, because it was making that change. It was everything. Piper was in now, and this was going, this was changing, and this was moving. So they had more angles. Then boom, Hulk came in, and everything got the focal point was Hulk, and Roddy was the heel, and everybody worked off of that. They worked their portion stuff off of that.
Just going back to Rocky, just for 1 minute, is around this time, like 83 or so. I'm trying to think what age he would have been, but he would have been about 44. Was that right? So Vince McMahon's quite famous at the time, at least, for being quite ageist, and thought Hulk Hogan, even though he had a 10-year magnificent run, was washed up by 38. Was Vince McMahon relatively ageist back then, thinking that even if Rocky was doing really well and he was getting a great reaction, well, he's in his 40s now, so he can't, go all the way with him, let's say?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think so. Rocky's only 3 or 4 years older than I am. Was only so I was, God, I was about 38 when I left. So he was he's probably in his 40s. Their downfall was him and they put him and Atlas together. That was the whole that was his whole shortcoming there, and I guess he didn't try to make life a bowl of cherries for Tony, and Tony wasn't conducive to, they didn't get along, ego thing, and I don't know what it was, but that was his that was pretty much his downfall. I don't think age or anything else, and his lack of he never really fired up to a point. Like I said before, he had a tendency to be lazy when it comes in the ring.
Yeah, Tony Atlas has admitted partial responsibility for their relationship breakdown because he was heavy into the drugs and Rocky wasn't. And since he was a Canadian citizen, Rocky was, he obviously couldn't be found in a car with drugs with Tony Atlas. He'd never work in America again if that was the case.
I don't know how true that is. I just think that, they had a lot of personal animosity against one another.
Yeah, you're probably right. I'm going to ask you a couple more, then we're going to shut this podcast down. And the next one is from Gandray27. If you could take back or redo one thing from your wrestling career, inside or outside the ring, what would it be?
Oh, my God.
Putting over Valentine, I imagine.
Yeah, I never put that punk over. Gee, one thing. I don't have one thing. I got a list. I got a Christmas list to send to the North Pole, to Santa Claus, of things that I should have done or shouldn't have done. And my God, shouldn't have left the territories when I did. And should have come in the territories before I did. God, one thing. Did I do? Yeah. If I only did one stupid thing, like this girl Val down at the docks. I think she was the first lady crane operator in the state of Hawaii. So she asked me, would you change anything in your life? Because she'd evidently, she'd gone through and made all, she was having problems with her husband at the time, and they got divorced. But that's not there. But she, evidently, she considered all her decisions, all of her, all the things she did. In right, that she'd done everything right, and I said, oh no, I said, I could go back and turn things around, the lady of the tiger, left or right, God, there's so many things I could have done in my not only my career, my life, that could have, I'm sure most men are like that. Or, a good deal of, the men that have been successful and have been volatile and active and, vibrant in life and moving along and, and making a career and making a living, make for their family and stuff. Guys, and women as well, too, have made, a lot of working, career mistakes or, emotional, partner mistake with wives or girlfriends, or cheating with girlfriends, or cheating with jobs, or quitting jobs, or taking the wrong job. Good God, where did I go wrong? Mm-hmm. I'm here in Hawaii. I got a paid house. I got I collecting funds. I got, I did okay.
Mistakes, I've had a few. Someone should write a song about it.
Yeah. My way, because me and Pat can do a duet.
I'll ask you a couple more then. Mr. Moop says, we always hear about Don having the good weed, but did Miss Elizabeth ever partake in any smoke sessions with Randy and Don? I didn't know Randy was hanging around smoking with you.
God, I didn't either. Jeez, no, Randy. I guess he have a. Randy didn't hang around with anybody when I was there. Maybe later, I heard when Warrior, after they got divorced, he turned into a semi-wild man. and dropping $2-3 at the Ric Flairs at the bars and stuff like that, But when I was there, it was back to the hotel with Liz, into the room, 6-pack and room service or takeout food or whatever, and back. Not even down to the bar to have a meal or anything. They would never see him around. Never.
Really?
Yeah, never. When I was there, after possibly, but when he was starting there, never, ever, never.
So you never had a smoke with Elizabeth then?
I never got loaded with Elizabeth. No. Shot up a couple times with her,
Yeah, she was benching pretty high, in the late 80s.
Went to the bench, went to the gym where they worked out, No cardio classes, no anything, yeah. No, she was a nice lady. She was a super, didn't get anybody's business, didn't bother anybody, always a smile on her face. You didn't know that they had any, if there was anything going on in their life or anything, she was always cool.
So are you saying, like, even on the European trips, Randy would never, you've never had a drink with Randy Savage?
I was never on a European trip with him.
I'm trying to think if there's anywhere else.
I don't think so. I can't remember. Kind of like Bob. Bob, Backlund kept away, but he'd turn up around for a minute or walk through, say hello or something. But Bob wasn't. Bob, he kept to the World Championship. And Randy was never around. Maybe with Hulk and those guys later, but not with us jabronis.
I will ask, let's say, maybe one or two more. Mark Bowman, I'm a 47-year-old fan and just started watching wrestling during the Magnificent Moment run. I think it means Morocco. I always respected Lanny Poffo's ring work. The backflip off the top rope as a kid, he was exciting. How was he to work with? He seems like a good guy. And he was a good guy when I spoke to him. He was really enjoyable to talk to.
Nice guy. Yeah, really good guy. Good worker. He wasn't going to hurt you. He wasn't. He was safe. He was just kind of late. Some of these guys are just they're just they do all the things and they can do it, but they just don't generate they just don't generate the audience. Just don't generate the emotion in the crowd as well. He could do all the moves, wrestling family, our gymnastics. He was a gymnast that flipped off the top and stuff, and double jointed. He could always, wrap his leg around his head or something. Yeah, he was.
I won't ask why he was doing that.
He kept to himself. He always kept to himself. He didn't like to spend money, which is his own prerogative. And he would live with. I guess he'd stay with fans. He didn't hang. Didn't go in the regular like everybody. Everybody. Well, here we go to Pittsburgh. We go to the Howard Johnson, which changed morphed into 3 or 4 hotels during the time we're going there. This place we go here. Over the East Coast. Places that have just a habit of going to. But he would find people and live with stay with them. Use just
I've got a theory on Lanny is that he wore trunks without knee pads, and that just looks weird.
Yeah, well, they weren't using knee pads a lot in those days. When he started, I was one of the first guys that started using knee pads.
Really?
Yeah. There weren't a lot of guys before that would use the knee pads. And then I would, see Ivan come off the top rope and come off the ropes and land on his knees and stuff like that. Oh, it's got to be an easier way. And I started a couple of years into mine and started using the knee pads. And they just support your knees and your legs, anything. Anyway.
Did you ever at least hear of Lanny's party trick that he
Yeah, Dynamite always win in that European, the National Lampoon Vacation. Come on, Lanny. Come on, Lanny. Let's see it. Come on, Lanny. No. We didn't let him. No, I don't do that, Tommy. I won't. It's said that that's possible. It's possible that a gymnastic or a double, somebody that's limber in the joints is able to assume various positions, but I don't, you diplomatically, Tommy was kind of ribbing him. And would have been entertaining, I suppose. I heard other guys that had, but I don't know. I never saw it. I just heard it. I never,
He didn't have ribs removed like Prince supposedly did. I remember that was a rumor for years.
I never heard that. Oh God.
I heard that. I heard that when I was like 8, and I didn't understand why. But apparently the rumor was that he had, like the floating ribs removed at the bottom, so he could.
Yeah.
But and I remember asking my older sister, it's like, why would you do that? And when you have no answer for an 8-year-old for that question.
Yeah.
Right, so on that note, I think we're going to shut this podcast down, so I'll do the dontherockmorocco.com for all your stuff. You know where to find us. We're on YouTube, we're on other places, and books to buy from me as well. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I'll look at the right camera. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you, Don, for entertaining us once again with your Lanny Poffo stories.
Look alike. If I could do that, I wouldn't be married.
Aloha.
Aloha.